What's up YouTube? Tommy from North Georgia RC here, bringing you a video on how to do the Traxxas spool. What this does is it eliminates the need for the shift servos in the TRX4s and the TRX6s. In this case it's a TRX6. Me and Ryan are building some right now. It's for later videos, but for now let's stick to the spools, okay? Part number 8297. So if you're sick of those pesky shift servos going bad or binding up on you or just not working right when you're on the trails, this is a $10 part that you can get at any local hobby store, get it on Amazon, get it on A-Main Hobbies, any major RC website. What this does is it just eliminates the little shifting piece you'll see inside this in just a moment. Pretty much once you get the 3 bolts out that hold in the entire rear axle minus the 2 axle shafts, because this is the center axle on the TRX6. So I'm going to show y'all how to do the most complicated one, which just is it's just an extra step because of the extra opinion. But 3 bolts on this to get the whole axle shaft out. On each side there are these very long guys here. There's 3 of them in total. One goes through the entire top here, holds both the upper control arms. One goes in on each, like this, on each side, and it holds in the shock and the lower control arm on each side. But anyways, let's get to the video. Let's get to the rest of this. Once you get the axle out of the vehicle, let's say you're at this step now. If you want me to make a video on how to get the axle out, I can do that too, but I just skipped that step for now. Pretty much all you're going to need once you get to this step is a 2mm Allen key. If you want, you can get one and use it by hand. I like to use a drill. Whenever we're working with plastic, tightening specifically, make sure you have a drill with adjustable settings where you can set it to how much torsion or tension you want to put on it. Because you don't want to over torque it. It will destroy and strip out the plastic housing itself. So we're going to start out by taking out the portals. The portals are just, the outer portals are 2 screws on each side. Everything you take out, put to the side, and do not lose. Once you take out those 2 big screws, simple as this, it slides right out. Once that slides out, your axle shaft right here slides right out also. There are 2 different length ones. This will not work here, it will not come all the way out. This one from this side will stick way too far out of this side. So put your axle shaft to the side with your portal and your screws. Next thing, on the back side, or on the actually front side, this faces the front of the vehicle, there are 4 2mm bolts as well. We're going to take those out. Keep your bolts to the side. Remember where they went. This has a little bit of mud in it. What I do when there's a little bit of mud is I just take a smaller Allen head and I just shove it in there and twirl it around a little bit. Work that mud out from when you had some fun. You're always gonna have mud in your stuff, so make sure you get it out. Once you got out those 4 screws, you will notice that only half of it comes apart, which that's perfectly fine. You're going to take, in this case, since this is the middle axle on the TRX6, this is the other pinion here as well. That goes from it goes to the rear axle from the middle axle here. We're going to just simply set this one to the side. Now, here's the axle that we're all used to. Look how nice and clean that is. I got this used from somebody, and it looks like they didn't really ever beat it up too much because all mine are all destroyed. So what we're going to do is... So we're going to take the rear cover off with those 4 screws and set it off to the side. Here's the normal TRX axle that we all know and love. Here's how the shift works itself. This piece slides left to right with the shift servo cable. So what we're going to do next is pop out this weird little retainer here. It's an E-clip is what they're called. When you take it out, it might shoot off really fast, so use caution with which direction it's going in. And make sure you pay attention to it. So I'm just going to lay it down and just give it a little pop. Just like that. And then I got a smaller pair of pliers here. I'm going to use these pliers to just grab that little... Oh, it fell out. Don't lose it. E-clip. Now that the E-clip is free, we're going to push that cable through the entire assembly and just keep pushing it, and it pops everything out. It pops the cable out, it pops the shift linkage out, it pops out everything. Next thing we're going to do, with those axle shafts removed, the entire assembly just slides right out. This is your differential. Right, so now that we got those 4 screws out, those 4 1.5mm screws, I'm just going to flip it over and it should just come apart just like that. So if you see here, there's a bunch of gears in there. We're doing away with all of this. So we're just going to set this off to the side because it's trash now. If you have a trash box, throw it in there. Now, with that out, just reach your finger up in here where the axle slides into. And if you're going to just give it a little push, if you watch, this one gear just comes out completely. Also, trash. All we need is this. All we need is the ring gear. Now if you notice there's a little grease on it, that's fine. We're just going to leave it there. Now, to the Traxxas 8297 spool. 8297. It's $10. Game changer. Traxxas sends you 4 new screws that are going to replace the 4 that came out. If you want to reuse those, you can, but you got 4 brand new ones. You got a new E-clip, and you have the plug for the cable that slid into the diff right here. That's going to come in handy so you don't get water, dirt, mud, and other debris in there. So just cut all this good stuff open. Dump it out on the table very carefully. You don't want to lose any of these little screws. Okay. Discard your garbage. And the spool. Spool's a very, very simple design. So what we are going to do is install the spool like so. There are little notches, little square pegs on the ring, and little square cutouts for those pegs to perfectly slide right into. Just like that. Now what we're going to do, I wouldn't reuse the old screws because there's no Loctite on them. Traxxas is very good about putting little dabs of blue Loctite on all their screws. So now that we're going metal into metal, I'm taking it off of the drill setting, and I'm going to put it to drill setting 1. I never, ever like to tighten anything more than 1, and even then, yes, I'm going metal to metal, but I don't like doing that. So make sure you got it in there nice and flush. If you want to do it by hand, you're more than welcome to. For the quickness of this video, I'm doing it with a drill. There we have it. Now what we're going to do, remember those 2 bearings I told you about? The small one here is going to go on the small end right there. Nice and tight fit. The big one, go figure, is going to go on the big end. There is your assembled spool with the ring that came out of the axle. For right now, we're going to set that to the side. Next thing to do is going to be to put the plug, which is super tiny, and when you got big old sausage fingers like me, it's hard to keep up with little parts like this. But this is the little plug, and if you notice, it's really hard to tell on camera. There's a little notch at the very top of it. That's where the E-clip is going to slide into and make a nice fit. So if you look through the axle here, see this hole up top right here? We're going to slide through the inside of the axle here, down into that hole, the little lock, and it's set like an oval. And they do that because the hole is also an oval. It's also an oval. Go figure. So what I'm going to do is just set it right there and kind of get one of the Allen keys that we got laying around. Just help it out by giving it a little push down in there. And once you get it pushed, it's going to go flush. Little motivation. And there it is poking through. Let me get my light out so you guys can see it better. That is the back side of it right there. So you see how that notch is sticking out? Next thing, this is the tricky part. We're going to get the new E-clip. You can reuse the old one if you'd like, but in this case it doesn't matter. Make sure you keep parts in hand. But I'm going to keep that Allen key pressing up against it so it doesn't slide out or anything on me. And I'm going to put it down on the table like this so that it won't move on me. Next thing, grab the new E-clip, your big old sausage fingers, and we're going to slide that onto it. If it doesn't want to slide on, it's probably going to fight you because it's going to be really tight fit. That's what we're looking for. What I'm going to do is grab a little... What I'm going to do is get it started like this. It's not all the way on, But then I'm going to grab a pair of pliers and try to gently grab the top of the E-clip and the bottom of the new block off plate here and just squeeze it onto it just like that, so that the E-clip goes into its home nice and secure, nice and tight. Let me get this light back out. There's the E-clip in place. It's holding it in exactly as it needs to be. If you see any of those 3 prongs aren't in place, like pushed in far enough, push them in further. Don't be afraid to hurt it. It's not going to hurt it. Now we take this guy out, and we're secure. Now for the reassembly. You can only put these in one way. Well, when I tipped it over, the pinion fell out. So make sure your bearing on the inside, now that it's out, is pressed in good. Make sure your one on the outside is pressed in good. We're just going to slide the pinion back through, just like that. Then we are going to take the spool with the bearings, make sure they are on all the way. This can only go in one way, guys, okay? You can't put it in this way because the ring isn't cut out in the actual housing like that to fit. So make sure you put it in just like that. Literally that easy. Then, once it's in place, you can spin the pinion back here just a little bit, not too crazy, just to make sure it's good. You can't really do anything with these once they're in. Once they're in, they're in. Axials, SCX24s, 10.3s, all that good stuff, you can shim it with little, looks like thin washers. You can't do that with these. These are just preset and they're good to go. So, once you have that, normally, if it was a normal TRX4 axle where it wasn't the middle pass-through, you would just throw the diff cover on, call it a day. But since this has the rear shaft, you see how that bearing's starting to fall out? We're going to just push the pinion on this one out and press that bearing back in, just like that, so it's nice and flush. Then what we're going to do, just like everything else, it can only go back together one way, guys. You cannot mess this up. So we're going to take this the way it needs to go, and we're going to slide it right on just like that. Before we tighten it, both of the pinions are through. It is now inside. I'm going to spin the bottom one here, and the top one you should see moving. If you don't see it moving, there's a problem. But like I said, you follow these instructions step by step, you shouldn't have any issues. So now that those are back in place, drill on setting 1. I got to swap out back from the 1.5 for those 4 bolts. I got to swap back out to the 2. Setting 1. Here's my 4 bolts that go through this diff cover into this diff cover. If you want to do these by hands, by all means, please do. But like I said, for the quickness of this video, I'm putting them in with a drill. Now that we have the diff cover reassembled to it, we're going to keep going with the process. Next thing to do is install the axle shafts. So to do that, like I said, you have to have the correct one on the correct side. So that's not going to work. It's way too short. It goes in over here. We're going to do is stand it straight up and just drop it in like that. And if it doesn't look like it's sticking out a little too far, just give it a little twist. It'll drop back into place. Then, what I like to do is twist the pinion to move the shaft. I like to set the shaft up where it's nice and even one way. I'm going to give it a twist like that so that when you're looking right at it, it's nice and flat. And I'm going to do the same with the portal. Give this a little twist so it's facing straight up and down, if I can get the right light on it. Straight up and down just like that, so that when I mate these two together in holy matrimony, they just, if I go the right way with it, they just slide right into place just like that. So with that axle shaft in, grab your 2 bolts that we took out earlier. Make sure you put them in the correct way, guys. This end, that little nub that sticks out, that is not where the screw goes in. That is where the screw catches. That's a threaded section. The screw will go in right here on this side. So, get it started a little bit. One screw, second screw. Same for this side. Stand it straight up, line up the axle shaft with the hole, drop it in, give it a little twist until it drops all the way in. Line it up so that it's nice and straight one way, that axle shaft, just like that. And the same with the portal again, just like that. And they should just drop right into place, just like that. Grab your other 2 screws. And here we have it, guys. This is the middle axle on the TRX6, which is the pass-through axle, which goes from this drive shaft to the back drive shaft, passes right through it, with the spool locker. This will no longer need the shift servo in it. So we're going to twist one of the pinions, and both of the axle shafts should move. There's that one. And that one. Then we're just going to reinstall it. Like I said, I didn't make a video on how to take it out, but tell me in the comments if you'd like to see that. It's super simple. 3 to 5 minute video. We can have that taken care of too. Guys, thank you so much.